welcome to 11 of Us Spotlight. I am Gwera Kiwana, and in this weekly show, we shine a spotlight on the best and the brightest in tech and financial services. We try to understand what gets them going, growing, and what they think the future of the industry will look like. So in today's spotlight, I'm delighted to be joined by Bar Geron, the CEO of Balance. How are you doing today, Bar?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. I think we had a bit of a banter earlier. I feel like you and I will get along very well. On today's spotlight, we're going to talk to Bar about his career and take a look at how Balance makes B2B payments awesome. So let's start off with elevator pitch. Can you just tell me an elevator pitch of who is Balance? What is Balance?
Yeah, sure. So Balance is a company that created like the first consumer grade checkout experience, but for businesses. Businesses can't really pay with credit cards. They can't buy their supply of steel with credit cards, but the industry is going online, right? So they need an alternative. They need to pay with payment terms because this is how the economy works. You're buying stuff, you want to sell them, and only then paying for them. And you also want to pay with invoices, with wires and checks, the way you are used to pay in the offline space. So Balance is the alternative for this one size fits all of credit card with a consumer grade checkout that gives you the ability to pay however you want. You get a self-serve invoice, you can pay with wires and checks, you can pay with ACH or card. And we have a risk mechanism in place that can evaluate your ability to pay with terms in a process that takes seconds to complete. Merchants are getting paid instantly and easily, like it's a card payment, but the buyer is getting all the flexibility he knows from the offline space, paying with terms and in the payment method he needs. So this is Balance in a nutshell. In general, we have two types of customers. The one is the entrepreneurs, venture-backed, building B2B marketplaces, a very, very fascinating industry. Those are taking specific verticals like steel, construction materials, medical supply, and so forth, and connecting vendors and buyers to bring the optimization that Amazon did for B2C to the B2B space. The second is those huge enterprises selling, think of Sony, right? Think of companies that are really driving the economy forward with their products, now moving to the online space to experience the power of the internet, to acquire new buyers and to have more optimization in their selling mechanisms. So we will be that checkout experience that will enable them to take the offline payments and push it to the online space, make it self-serve and scalable to infinity.
That's awesome. I think B2B payments is something that no one really ever, like personally, I've never really stopped to think about it. And so really, how did you come up with the idea for Balance? How did you and the team come up with that?
Yeah, so two sentences about my background. I started my fintech career at PayPal, something on the intersection between risk, strategy, and product. There I met my better half, Yoni, which is my co-founder and CTO. This is our second company together. I continued the journey through fintech companies. One of them is Behalf. And Behalf is a company from the first generation that tried to do innovation in B2B payments. The idea was to take the payment terms element and make it more scalable. I learned a lot and got very intimate with B2B e-commerce, which is a very non-sexy thing for entrepreneurs. So it was a great window just to see how things are. And I got fascinated about it. And Balance is just an aggregation of insights from those two main experiences in PayPal and Behalf to try and create a B2B payment experience that just doesn't suck. So Balance is taking like a holistic approach to B2B payments to make it seamless.
That's really cool. And yeah, a B2B payments experience that doesn't suck. I love that you said that because so often we hear B2B is just like no one cares. Like everyone's just like, You're talking to the resourcing or the procurement team who are just trying to get through a bunch of other stuff, and no one cares about their happiness. So why haven't we seen more B2B pure e-commerce plays yet? Like, why haven't we seen more of these?
I think B2B
You guys are
e-commerce
definitely
in general.
blazing a trail.
Yeah, B2B e-commerce is again, it's a very weird industry because it's not something that entrepreneurs, Silicon Valley get to experience by themselves. It's not a developer tool. It's not something that you experience as a consumer. So you need to really feel the pain. And because this industry is very professional oriented, B2B is very much rely on workflows. So innovation needs to be in a very tailor-made, connecting the dots between the different use cases to create a standardized experience for a B2B payment online. So it was a very long journey, even though we had the experience of like seeing how shitty B2B payments are online. We still needed to talk to dozens and dozens of companies looking to innovate and going digital until we figure out what is the right way to formalize something that can be the factor experience for businesses to purchase online. So I think, yeah, the reason is probably because it's very hard to understand the nuances. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and it's a lot of time and patience, and I understand also really the nurturing of the product has taken a while, right? So tell me a little bit about YC. You guys got into Y Combinator back in, was it 2020?
Yes, it was 2020. We knew what we wanted to do in general, but then we got very intimate with B2B marketplaces. And we got so excited with the idea of like an entrepreneur from, from the Silicon Valley or somewhere in the US that doesn't know anything about steel. And he just got inspired by other people that build B2B marketplaces. They come and they disrupt. They come to like the industry, um, uh, the steel industry, which is so big and archaic. And then they're just starting to use their passion to talk to vendors and give them the ability to acquire new buyers to increase their demand. And they go to buyers and say, listen, now you can optimize your cost of steel. So think about, steel is in the basics of everything we buy. Think about what this optimization does to the world. Now multiply it in every vertical that powers the economy. This is insane. And this is what we experience with every marketplace we work with.
That's really exciting, and it just goes to show the potential that Balance really has to disrupt. I hate that word, but disrupt various spaces for your clients as well,
Yeah.
not just for you in payments, but for the people the businesses you serve. But let's talk about a little bit more big picture and dive into the world of B2B payments eventually. But I understand that you've got some interesting news, and I'm just going to read it out. So you recently announced that Balance has raised $25 million in a Series A funding led by Ribbit Capital, with participation from Avid Ventures as well as existing investors Lightspeed Ventures, Stripe, Y Combinator, Continuity Fund, Sci-Fi VC, and Up West. Other individual investors participating include Jacqueline Reeses, who's the former head of Square Capital, as well as additional early employees and executives from Square, Plaid, Coinbase, Stripe, and PayPal. Huge vote of confidence from such a prestigious list of people. So
Yeah.
congratulations, first of all, and tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's very exciting. At the end, um, the most exciting thing about it is not really the money, which is exciting as well. It's just the milestone of having people that are, so bright and so in the weeds of what it means to build a payment business and have them giving us that confidence of what you're doing is real, and the milestones you achieve means something. Um, that's just, it's just an amazing experience after you building something from scratch. Ribbit Capital, probably the best fintech fund in the world, saying B2B payments, B2B e-commerce payments. Balance is our bet. It's such a big thing. And having the Paradas, having everyone that invested at the beginning investing again and saying, we're with you, go all in, it's just amazing. And to top it all up, you have those angels, executives, early investors from every big fintech company I know having their advice on how to do it right is so significant.
It's really significant. Like I said, it's a huge vote of confidence. Because you're really foraying into a space that is so underdeveloped, and there's just so much potential for a lot of really cool stuff to happen. So, what are you going to use this round of funding for?
Wow. So we're going to expand in so many areas. We're doing global payments right now. So every B2B marketplace in e-commerce companies looking to go digital, we will be able to support them globally, which is so significant. We're going to increase more and more our capabilities there. Obviously, just increasing our development efforts. And, in every department, we're going to go big. Um, and yeah, we're going to open an office in New York probably. So a lot of things are happening right now. It's very exciting.
That is really exciting. I think when you think about owning and conquering the checkout from the B2C space, I think of Square, I think of Shopify, and their shop product. But when you comes to B2B, like we're only going to have hopefully one name on that everyone thinks of, which is Balance. So can you tell
Yes.
me? We touched a little bit on uh, B2B payments versus B2C payments. So I have this statistic that just absolutely blew my mind. So 92% of B2B transactions are still done offline, representing over $2 trillion. So more than 2x retail e-commerce. That's
Yeah,
insane to
that's
me. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? It just shows like a really interesting opportunity. But yeah, tell
yeah,
me a little
it's
bit more.
really interesting. The market is interesting in two ways. So one that you mentioned is that most of it offline. And when you think about B2B, B2B is the economy. It's everything. So I don't know if there's a number that can really illustrate the magnitude of how big B2B is. That's from one side, but from the other, there's like 8% that is online, and it's already more than twice as big from what you know as consumer payments online. And consumer payments is everything we know, right? It's the entire world of e-commerce as we know it. So this is like it's like, oh my God, no one knows there's B2B or e-commerce because it's so small, but it's still so big and it still has so much room to grow. I think this is what gets the ecosystem excited about B2B in general. And I think just the e-commerce space, what we're going to see in the next 10 years, and we're talking with the most innovative companies in the world looking to digitalize their business. We see the trend, we feel it on the day to day. And just imagine a world when the experience of optimization you have, like you're going into Google, finding the product you just saw on the shop 30% less. Think of that capability to the B2B and what it does to the cost of living for everyone. So I'm super excited about what it means. It's probably the most important innovations that is happening in the world. And we're just very lucky to be a part of it on the payment side. So yeah, I'm very excited.
So B2B, previously, historically underserved because of how complex their needs are, and especially when it comes to payment. And Balance, from what I understand, offers various, pretty flexible payment options and checkout options. Can you tell us like what those are and why they are that way?
Yeah, of course. So you know what you have in B2C, right? You have a credit card, one click and done. Very easy. It's easy on the merchant side because he gets paid all the time the same way. He gets instant approval from the credit card company saying he got the funds And everything is just super streamlined. There's no reconciliation. You know exactly the payment on an order. Everything is connected. Super easy. Super easy. And this is what we know in e-commerce. In B2B, everything is not easy. Starting with payment options. So only like 8% of B2B payments online is being done with a credit card. Everything else is with bank payments like ACH, wires, and checks. This is significant. They need to have an invoice to get approvals from their finance manager. The finance manager needs details to send wires because this is how he pays all his vendors. The merchants on his side needs to wait for the customer to pay. And when he sees the money in the bank, he needs to connect it to an order, which is very difficult to do, which is called reconciliation. And this is happening on the, for example, the 16th of each month, because this is when he pays all his vendors. He doesn't pay like transaction after transaction when it comes. So think about the merchant experience, right? It's insane how much friction there is to it. The time of payment, the reconciliation, the different channels, some send checks, some paying with wires, some paying with credit cards. And it's very, very hard to manage. And on the buyer side, he doesn't get any self-serve capability. He needs to pick up the phone and say, hey, I need an invoice. Please send me details to send checks. And everything is super painful. So this is like generally what makes B2B payments online so shitty. And what Balance is doing is like an abstraction layer in a consumer grade experience for those buyers to get self-serve invoices straight from the checkout. They get details to pay with wires. They get the details to pay with checks. Balance has the ability to collect checks on the merchant's behalf and connect the payment to the invoice automatically. Do it with ACH and credit cards as well, making one consolidate payout for the merchant. He doesn't need to know what the payment option the customer chose. He gets paid the same way all the time. Now, that's only one element. Remember, we talked about the 16th of each month of the moment you pay all your vendors? We pay the merchant instantly. So when you connect those two, the merchant doesn't really care. He just feels like everything is credit card, but the buyer can pay on the 16th of each month. He can pay with wires. He gets his invoice. He gets everything he needs to run his business. This is what makes Balance special, I think.
That is really special. I mean, so with the immediate payouts, that's merchants must love you because some of these merchants can spend months waiting for a single payment. But so how do you don't have a balance sheet. So how do you assess risk and like determine whether or not you can actually let people pay you in lump sum over a certain time? How does that? What's the behind the scenes for that?
This is a very cool technology that, again, it's not rocket science per se. Like it's not something that we are the only company that did in the world, but we gave it a very seamless touch. So every merchant essentially does the same. He asks for references. He's checking DNBs. He's checking FICO of the business owner. It just take a week, and he has a very limited capability to do it. Balance is connecting to the customer bank account. We connect to bureau data, vertical specific data sources, and we do all of that to create our own FICO for each business to say something smart about his ability to pay, his status of cash flow. If we think it's a good indicator that he will be able to pay in 30 days, for example, we are willing to take the risk on our balance sheet and pay the merchant upfront.
Can you tell me a little bit if we could take a sneak peek into, because my brain is swimming with ideas and like potential things that Balance could do, everything from like treasury to like buy now pay later, like loans basically for businesses. What do you think is next? What do you feel is next? Can you share that?
Yeah, I think one of the most biggest and unsolved problems in the world of B2B trade is the ability to do it globally. There are a lot of countries that don't have data, don't have open banking, and don't have anything that they can leverage to facilitate trust with vendors or the other side, the buyer, that they don't know, right? So think of a world when you as a customer, every time you want to buy something online, you need to be identified. You need to send references. You need to call to your credit card company and say, hey, can you provide them with this A, B, and Z? In B2B, this is how it is. And you don't have that capability if you're not from the US. In the US, you can connect to Plaid, you can do different things. It's much more robust. You have much more infrastructure in place. So my dream is to continue building that ability for everyone online to do transactions seamlessly online. This is very significant to the economy. That can change everything. And I believe that this is our mission. It takes time. It will take years.
That's great. Yeah.
But we're on it.
Okay, so let's come toward the end of the show, and I just want to, wrap up a little bit by asking you this question. You can answer it however you'd like. And it's just, you've had such an interesting experience. Your career has taken you, you've founded companies, you've exited, you've been to YC, you've raised again. You're working with someone who you've been working for many years. That's great. Can you give any advice to your younger self, to someone who's just starting out, or someone who is trying to figure out what direction to take their career in? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes. There is no thumb rules in this world, and your common sense is much more powerful than you think. Have trust in yourself and your ability to do things and learn. And there is no limit to the things you can achieve. It's just a matter of believing in yourself in some level, and know that you're good enough to do whatever you see fit.
That's great. Thank you. All right, so everybody, it's coming to the end of the show. Thank you so much, Bar, for joining me. Where can people find out more about everything that you're getting up to?
Yeah, so social, obviously. You can find us on Twitter, Get Balance Headquarters, HQ, Balance, and LinkedIn. You can reach out directly to me, bar@getbalance.com. And yeah, ping me on whatever if you want to have more information on Balance.
Awesome. Also, if you want to talk about everything cool, things like intermittent fasting or whatever, you can also ping Bar. All right. That's all that we have time for this week. Make sure you follow 11FS on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram to stay updated on all the cool stuff we're up to. And if you do enjoy the show, please do subscribe to the 11FS YouTube channel, where you can catch up on previous episodes and really just learn a lot about the fintech space as well. So have a great week, and goodbye.